All right, welcome all. This is Raymond for Stream Gamers in conjunction with Canuck Air. Today I'm going to create or do a video and go into a deeper dive on what it takes to create a hangar or any asset for that matter. We can talk about. What we're attempting to do here is we're attempting to make that. A little bigger. So that's our plan. So we're going to have doors, we're going to have windows that you can see through, we're going to have roofing, we're going to have some trim. What isn't here is a light that we're going to put on the front of this hangar. But that's what we're going to attempt to make. So let me just start with just a couple of things that I think are important to kind of go through before we get started. One, you need to have this exporter program set up, which is this one right here. Okay, so that's important. You have to have that. In order to get that up, if you go to the edit, down to preference, install, and wherever you download this from, and I'll hopefully be able to remember to provide some links for you to get the Blender and the correct version of this. Now the version of Blender I'm using is version 4.0, and the version of the exporter I believe is 1.33. I think that's what it is. But I'll leave links in the description and all that to kind of show you what you should download and so forth. Right. So, assuming you've downloaded it, you need to keep it as a zip file. This importer imports it based on a zip file. I won't do it because I've already done it. But at this point, you would hit install add-on, and when you did that, you would scroll down here. Actually, on your end, it would show you. I think only one entity, the entity that you just added. But you want to make sure this check mark is put into here. And then, once that's done, you should have, along this little menu bar, you should have another additional menu. That's the exporter. Now, we're not going to use that till much, much later on, but it's important that you have that, okay? The other thing that is important to understand or know is that we're going to be using object mode. That's up in the upper left corner. We're going to be using object mode, and we're going to be using edit mode. Now you can tab between those two features simply using the tab key. Okay. So when you tab to the edit mode, you then have these three options. One is the little dot, and so if we wanted to, we can manipulate the model based on just that little dot. The other one is the line tool, and we can manipulate the model based on just the line. Okay. And then the final one is the face, and so we can manipulate the model based on the face. Okay. So those are the things that are important to know. I'm going to also delete this menu up here. This is a menu of all of the assets or all of the items that we're actually building. Currently, the cube. Let me do that. So currently we have a cube, and that cube is the only thing we have. This whole thing will start with that cube. Okay. The other thing we have is we have a camera and we have a light. The camera I don't use a whole lot. I'm sure you can use it for creating scenes and stuff like that, but in 2020 I don't do that. So we delete the camera by highlighting and hit delete, and we're going to also delete the light because later on I'm going to add lights in, but I'm going to add them where I want them in. Anyways, the next thing we want to do is we want to make sure that we go here and we type in unit. Now this is preference. This is my preference. You can continue in metric if you like. I prefer to have imperial. And no, I'm not from the US, I'm from Canada. It's just when I do this drawing, modeling, I'm kind of a design mechanical engineer by trade, and so I prefer to do Imperial when it comes to drafting and designing and stuff like that, or modeling. And so that's why I'm here in this. It's just I find it more intuitive to do it based on interest. Okay. And another one is the tilde key, the key beside the number one key, not the number pad one, but the other one along the top. That's the tilde key. If you hit that, you get this little submenu up, and so now you can orientate your model based on views. So those drafting people will understand views. Those that aren't drafting people may not, but you got your front view, your bottom, top, side, left, right, blah, blah, blah. So I'm going to use the F key, which is going to give me from my front view, because I want to base everything off of my front view. So now I know that that is my front view. Okay? So far, all we've done is kind of set this whole thing up a little bit. We're going to go through some of these tools along the side here. We're not going to use them all. We're going to go through some of them. Okay, so if I tab out and I put object mode on, and then if I click on item here, I get this transform window. So now I can do dimensions overall. I can do scaling, so I can scale the object either in any one of the axes or on all of them. I can rotate that model however I want, and then I can locate this anywhere on the palette I want. So we're going to make the Z, we're going to make that 240 or 20 feet, that is. We're going to make the Y, we're going to make that 960, which is 80 feet, I believe, in that area. And we're going to make the X 1200 inches, which is 100 feet. Okay, now this is not something you need to do, but I prefer to have the model on top of this grid, and right now it's halfway below the grid. So if I go up to here and I type in half of the 240, which is 120, I bring it here. Okay, this in its entirety is that cube. Okay, it's just that cube. We're going to chop this up as we go through this process. We're going to see how we chop this up. I'm likely going to produce this series as a series of 3 videos. The first video will be getting the model right. The second of the series is going to be texturing it, adding color and feature and whatnot to it. And the third will be, exporting it out, getting it into Microsoft Flight Simulator. How do you do that? And then once it's in Microsoft Flight Simulator, how to move or manipulate, turn, blah, blah, blah. Okay? So, part 1. We're back to part 1. So now, I'm going to tab, and I'm going to select the line tool up there. I'm going to select this edge and this edge. Now, if you hold the shift key, when you select the secondary edge, they both stay selected. I'm going to right click, subdivide. Now you see that line that's in there. I'm going to keep that move tool picked on, and I'm going to pick and drag the blue line up, and now you can see I'm creating a peak. Okay. Down here is a submenu that pops up, and this submenu, I'm going to change that to 72 inches. That's going to be the peak. Okay. So that's basically what our building is going to be. If I hit that, you can see this is what it is. Now, a very important thing to be on top of is the scaling. Okay, the scaling of the model, in order to bring that into Microsoft Flight Sim 2020, needs to be 1 for 1 for 1. That is X1, Y1, and Z1. If it's anything other than that, when you bring that model in, it's going to look weird, right? So, for example, the model might, you've made this 100-foot by 80-foot hangar, and when you bring it in, it might look like this tiny, tiny little thing, so it won't look correct. Or vice versa, it'll look like this monstrous thing. And yes, there is scaling in 2020 that you can scale down, but you can't scale down exact dimensions. So if you go onto Google Earth like I do, and I get my measurements for my buildings off of Google Earth and say, okay, I want this building to be, in this case I want it to be 100 by 80, Okay, now I want the building to be 100 by 80 because that's what fits in the scene properly. Okay? Anyways, so how do we fix this? Well, if we press the A key with the cube highlighted, press the A key with it in object mode, you get all of the entities selected. Then if you go up to the top here and click Object, and you click on Apply, and you click on Scale, you'll see now the scale is all 1:1. It's worth noting to keep an eye on that throughout the modeling process, that should it change, make sure you put it back to 1:1. It doesn't change often, but I have noticed it change from time to time. Okay, so we're going to go to edit mode, and we're going to pick this, faces, we're going to pick this face, hold the shift key, we'll pick that face. This is going to become our roof, but I'm going to separate it from the cube, okay? And I do that by highlighting the two of them, and I press the P key, and then I hit selection, and you see up here, we have another addition, okay? In this case, I'm going to delete that, and I'm going to call this roof. Now, my naming conventions are just that, they're mine. You can decide or choose to do whatever you want with your naming conventions. You can make them however you want. I prefer to have mine set up in such a way that makes sense to me, and some of it later on you'll understand why I do it that way. Hopefully you'll see it, but if not, then you do you, and I'll just keep on doing what I'm doing, basically. Okay, so we've got the two faces. I'm going to create a bit of an overhang on the roof, okay? And the way that's done is we make sure we select the roof, we make sure that we've got the two faces highlighted, we press the S key, we hold the shift key down, and then we drag until we're happy with the kind of overlay that we have, right? Now, we could go down here and we could change that. We could be much more precise with what we're doing. I'm not going to do that, but we could. Okay, so that's our roof. Now we're going to create a fascia all the way around here, and the way we do that is we highlight the roof and we press the E key for extrude. It is extruding in the Z-axis already, but if you wanted it to extrude in the X-axis or the Y-axis, you would press either the X or the Y key, and then it would start to extrude in those directions. In this case, that's what we want. Now, of course, we don't want it to be a 96-inch roof. We want it to be a 6-inch. There we go. So now we have this 6-inch roof. We have this 6-inch fascia going all the way around the roof. There is a trick to selecting multiple entities, especially in this application, in this area. And that trick is, if you hold the Alt key down and you put your cursor right in the corner of that edge there and click, you then see it highlighted and selected everything. If it didn't, you could just go around by holding the shift key and clicking each of the faces, going all the way around until they've all been selected. I will say that if you're doing this, just make sure that all of the faces have been selected, because if there was, let's say, a subdivide in there somewhere that you weren't aware of, and it may in the back not have a certain face selected completely, you'd have to redo all of that. So just make sure it's all been picked. Now it has. Press the P key. Again, selection, and you see here, now I have this item in here called roof.001, and because I've done that, I can call this fascia, and so, hence roof fascia. So I know that this fascia was derived from here. It was driven from this entity, okay? Now the rest of it effectively is walls, right? That really is the deal. So if I were to, with this selected, go to the cube, and if I were to select that face, that face, that face, that face, and underneath, that is the entirety of the cube, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click this face. Now I don't want a floor because there's going to be a ground pad or some floor already in the simulator that this is going to sit on top of, so I don't need a floor. So if I select, excuse me, if I select that face and press H, you see the model actually is hollow, right? It is an actual hollow model, but the floor is now gone, okay? Now the remainder of this cube really is walls, okay? And they're gonna be various different walls, but they're gonna be walls. And so the walls now, if I were to pick on this face and say, hey, this face is going to be the front wall, right? So press the P key, press selection, and my naming convention tells me I'll just put an F there. That tells me that that's the front wall, okay? This, whoops, that wall, press the P key, selection, and of course that's going to be the left. And P selection, it'll be right. Now, as I go through this, and we get closer to actually getting done, you're going to see the advantage to doing it this way. And of course, you don't have to name anything. You can just leave this whole list kind of, you know, cube 1, cube 2, cube 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, all the way down the line. But later on, when you want to find a specific entity, you got to go filter through all that. You got to know what cube 17 is, okay? And trust me, we're gonna have a lot of entities right in here when we're done. Anyways, F selection, back. Okay. So there we go. Now, really, that entity really is nothing, and you see how there is nothing. Like if I pick on this, it highlights an entity. But when I pick on that, there's nothing. And so I didn't really need to do the back wall. I could have just simply said, hey, the last remaining thing is the back wall. But let's get that out of here, okay? Because we don't want that in here. Face? Probably. Yeah. Yeah. No. No. Here we go. Got it wrong. Okay. So there's our front. I just want to always keep. I like to always work off the front face and orientate everything off the front face. It's just kind of how I do it. Okay. So our next step is we're going to start. We're gonna create this front. Actually, no. You know what? We're going to do this side. We're going to do this left side right here. That's what we're going to do. We're going to deal with the left side. Now, this model, as we saw before, no. So this model has some windows here. You can't see it, but there's a man door right on this side over here as well. And then there's windows over there, okay? So we're going to create that here on this left wall. Line tool, select the line, right click, extrude, or subdivide, that's what it's called. Subdivide. Now, you can be more precise with your placement of entities and geometry and everything else. I don't know if there's a better way to do this. I'm assuming there is, but I don't know what it is. What I do know is that line is at the center or at 120. Okay? That's where that line actually exists. So if I want to move that down or move that up to get it in a place where I want it, I could just grab it and drag it. So I want my first line to be at 84 because that's typically what a door height is. So if we pull out our calculator, and we know it was sitting at 120, and we minus 84 out of that, that means I got to go down 36, or I got to bring this to a negative 36. Okay? So now, this, when I subdivide this, when I subdivide this again, I know that this line here is at 84 of the 240. Okay? So if I go 240 minus 84, this line is at 156. Now, if I divide that by 2, I know that this line now is at a location of 78. Okay? I want this to be 12 inches above that. Okay? So if I divide, or if I minus 12 inches, I got to move this line down 66 inches. Okay? I'm sure there's a more intuitive way of doing it. It is the only way that I've been able to legitimately figure out how to do this. Okay? And the final piece is I'm going to subdivide one more time, but this time I'm going to leave that line exactly where it is. And this is going to be a row of windows here. There's going to be a man door right here. Okay? So let's get the row of windows in. We're going to subdivide, and we're going to go boop, 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 8. So we're going to have one window. Oops. We're going to have a window, a space, a window, a space, a window. Okay? So speaking of that, let's do that. Boom, boom, boom. So those are going to be my windows on this side. And when I hit the P key and go like that, you can now see that it created wall.L001. And this is going to be window. Okay? So we're going to create a trim around the windows, okay? And how do we do that? If we have that window selected and we press the I key, the letter I, you can see it creates a bit of a trim. I'm going to make that trim 4. I'm actually going to do that across the board for all of these windows. I'm doing this fairly quickly because what I'm trying to do also is keep the video a little shorter, but not at the expense of making sure that I give a complete new user all of the information they do need. Okay, so now I'm going to select these windows and I'm going to press the P key, selection, and you can see here I've got wall. So this geometry that I'm working with, or this item that I'm working with, is on the left wall. It's a part of the window, but in this case it's going to be the glass. And what I can do now is I can say, well, this actually is the frame. Okay? So you see that's the window, that's the frame. Okay? So again, if I'm looking for, the reason why I'm doing this like this is that if I'm looking for a left, if I'm looking for the item to pick for windows on the left hand side, I can just simply look at my left hand category, which is this, and there is the frame and there is the glass. Okay, so we're gonna come down here and we're gonna do the door. We're going to do this. We're going to subdivide. We know that the entire length or depth of the building is 960. Half of 960 is 480, which means I got 480 inches from here to here. So if I were to move this line in this direction, which is a negative, if I were to move that, say 400, oops, I didn't put that as a negative. I should then have 80 between here and here. Okay? So now when I do this and I go here and I do that again, I hit subdivide. Whoops, that's not what we want. That's not performance. We want it from there. Subdivide. So I know now I know I had 80 here. So now this, between this line here and this line here, that's 40. I actually want this opening to start with to be 44 inches, right? So I really, what I need to do is I need to move that line that way 4 inches, right? So if I do that and I go -4, huzzah, I know that this width between here and here is actually 44 inches, okay? And that's important because when I do the subdivision again, right click, divide, I know that this is 22 inches, right? Because remember, this is 44 and that's dead center. It's 22 inches. I want 4 inches here, which means if I move this in this location, in that direction, I should say, 18 inches, I got a 4-inch gap there. Of this 44, now I only got 40, right? I got 40 inches, so I go here, I got 20 and 20. If I want this to be moved over this way and have 4 inches left, if I move it over 16 inches, or negative 16, I've got 4 and 4, okay? So I don't know, and I'm going through this kind of like this for you so you can see that there is a way that you can dimensionally make things exactly as you like. And I'm sure there's other ways. I know there is this measuring tool. I haven't used it a lot. I don't fully understand it. One day I might, but I don't use it. But I can just do this based off of knowing what the overall dimensions are and through simple mathematical equations. For those that maybe are a little more mathematically challenged, have a calculator and a pen and paper around just so you can make notations down. Okay. And by the way, I do that as well because I am somewhat mathematically challenged at times too. Okay. So I'm going to right click, subdivide. Now I want a 4-inch header up here, and remember I made this door 84 inches, right? And so if I were to split that in half, that would get me 42, okay? But I want 4 inches at the top, which means I want to move this up 38 inches. So what's going on here now? I want that line to go up 38. There we go. So if I go 38, I should now have a 4-inch gap all the way around, just like I have over here. Okay. Now, I'm going to finish off on this side momentarily, and then we're going to go to the other side, and we're going to quickly do the other side as well. So what's left? Well, we have to take this, and this, and create a door out of it, right? So hit the P key, hit selection, left-hand wall. This is our man door. This will become the frame, okay? But we'll get to that. This is the actual door, right? So we'll hit P key and we'll hit selection, and we're going to call this frame, and we're going to call this the actual door. Okay, so I got my frame, right, and I got my door. Okay, so we've got a pretty good start here throughout this whole thing. Most of it is based on the left-hand side, or not most of it, 90% of it is based on the left-hand side. I'm going to do one more thing here, and then we're going to go and do some work on the right-hand side. So the door, for example, which is that and that, doors are never flush with the trim, right? The trim is always kind of protruding a little bit. So I'm going to protrude, or I'm going to push that door in. I'm going to push that in an inch. And we don't use the extrude tool. We use the G key, which is the move key. And I don't know why they call it G, but you see right there, it says G for moving. An M would be more appropriate in my mind. But anyway, I digress. We're going to move it in. We're going to move it in on the x-axis, and we're going to move it in that way, right? So we're going to hit G, X1, enter. And if I get a little tighter in on that, you can see it's there. Now there is a gap there, and that's okay. Don't worry about that. We're going to fill that in later. Okay, so but now what we're also going to do is we're going to do the same thing for the glass. Okay, so we're going to select that. Come on, we're going to select these windows, and we're going to push those windows in 1 inch as well, because again, there's always a bit of a lip from the window trim around in the window in the glass itself, right? So G, X1, 1. Enter. And they should be recessed into these. And they are. I can actually see it that they actually are recessed in. Okay. Now we are going to go over to the one. I just keep saying there's only one other thing I need to do here, but there is one more thing I need to do on this left-hand side. I've got all these lines, and so later on, when we're moving and we're doing stuff, I don't want to have to click all of these individual faces. So we can do something called dissolve. We can't dissolve it all into one, but we can dissolve it all into 2 faces. If I go down here and click on dissolve face, you see all those lines dissolve into one. And I'm going to do the same for here, and that's going to dissolve into yet another one. So now we actually just have 2 faces on this one wall. Over to the right-hand side. So this is going to be kind of the same with less the door, right? So we're going to do this. We're going to subdivide. I know that's at 120 inches. I know I want this line to be at 96 inches. So again, if I were to go 120 less 96, I got to bring that line 24 inches down, right? That's what I got to do, 24 inches. So great, grab the line, negative 24. That line now is at the same level. And now if I go here and here, and the way I did this last time on that side, I just left it like that. So I've got my windows level to the other side. Okay, so here, here, right click, subdivide. We're going to have 8 equal spaces. There it is. And we're going to pick, oops, and we're going to pick this, 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 and this. And we're going to call that our, you guessed it, windows. Okay. And now, because if I do with the I key again, you can see it, and I'm moving along pretty quickly here. So if I'm going too quick, just pause the video, come back, and take another look at it. I'm trying to be I'm trying to be very informative, but I'm also trying to be mindful of your time, that you're not stuck watching an hour of a video where you could have gotten the same information had you watched, less than that. So far, our time is 32 minutes. We're at 32 minutes in this area. So we're going to be an hour for sure by the time this part of the project is complete. Okay. Okay. We pick these windows, just like we did on the other side. We go there and we hit selection, and now we're going to call this glass, and call this frame. So we're also going to, are we on the left, right hand window? Yes, we are. We're also going to do the dissolve and turn this into 2 faces as well. So 1 face, 2 face, we're done. Okay? Okay. So we've got our doors, we got our man door, we got our 8 windows, we got our roof, our fascia, we got our walls, blah. Now we're gonna work on the front wall. Okay? So the front wall, we're going to do this. We're going to use the line. Whoops. We're going to use the line tool, and we're going to subdivide this. Now we know that this line is at the 120 mark, and I know that I got another 120 inches up to the top of the roof here. Okay. So if I were to do this and move this up at 100 inches, that would leave me 20 inches approximately from the top, and it would leave me a total of 220 inches down here. That would be the total height of our door opening, and that's where I'm going to leave it. Now I'm going to do this and this, and I'm going to right click subdivide. I'm going to have 1 subdivision. Now the building is 1200 inches, right? So each side is 600. I'm going to leave 100 inches over here, and I'm going to do another one. I'm going to leave 100 inches over there. But first I'm going to do this, and I'm going to go minus 500. That's going to be 100 inches, right? So now when I do this, and I right click and I subdivide, This is now 1100 inches or 550 on either side. So if I were to move this over 450 inches, I would have 100 inches here and 100 inches there. And that's how we do that, okay? Now, that's our front wall. But this, whoops, this is going to become our door, okay? So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to split it. We're going to right click and we're going to hit split. Now the reason why we hit split is because we can separate that item now. See, we can pull that item away, okay? And what we're going to do with this entire item is we're going to press the G key to move it. We're going to move it in the y-axis, -1. Enter. And so now, it's hard to see it, but there's a gap between the wall and the door, 1 inch. We assume there'll be some weather stripping put in there at some point, okay? That door is going to be split up into 4 equal parts. 2 of them will be on one side and 2 of them will be on the other side, okay? So we're going to select the line tool. We're going to select that edge, right click, subdivide. And there we go. We've gotten that subdivided into our 4 equal parts. Sorry, I thought I heard the phone ringing, but okay. Now I want to separate these items from one another. Okay, so right click on this, split, 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 and split. They should now all be independent of one another. I can move that one, I can move that one, I can move that one, I can move that one. Okay, good. So we'll put them all back in their original places. We're going to pull this one over this way, that one over that way. So we're going to move this in this direction, put it somewhere in that area, and that's going to call that -200. Okay. This one is going to move over a +200. So there we have it. We have those 2 doors. Now those 2 doors should be separated. There should be a gap in there, and yet it looks kind of like there might not be one. Yeah, there is. Okay. So we're going to add some material thickness, just like we did to the roof. The roof, in order to make our fascia, we're going to add some material thickness. Okay. So we're going to select the door, and we're going to select this door, and then we're going to press the E key, and we're going to drag it out, and we're going to make that door 3.5 inches. Okay. Then we're going to take these 2 doors, and remember they were both out. So if I move these 2 doors out 3.5 inches, they will be completely flush. But I'm going to move them out 4 inches. Okay. So E, Y, -4, bang. So now I should have a 1/2 inch between the 2 doors. Okay. So on this door and on this door, I want to make a little trim edge going all the way around, and you'll see what I'm getting at when I do this. I'm going to press the I key, I'm going to do that, and I'm going to go 4. I'm going to press the I key, and I'm going to do that. I'm going to go 4. I 4. and 4. Okay, and we're going to do the same thing to these doors right here. But before we do that, we're going to put the material thickness to the. Before we put the material thickness to them, we're going to slide them into their place. They have material thickness. Oh, that's unfortunate. I didn't want that. How did they get material thickness? I didn't select it. Okay, let's try that again. Well, let's just do one at a time. E coming out, make that 3.5. That one, E, pull it out, 3.5. Okay, I'm going to separate these because it's going to be pretty important later on that they're separated. So these two I'm going to move out. Oh, I know what I did. I didn't do G, I did E. So G, Y minus 4. That's what I did wrong. Okay. Back to I. 4. I. 4. I. 4. I. And 4. Okay. So there we got those doors. Now we're going to move these doors, and we're going to just kind of place them, somewhere's in that area. I can see that gets me for, let's do negative 380. It's close enough. Whoops. Let's do that again. Negative 380. Of course, this will become positive 380. Okay. So that was the doors. Now we're going to extrude that to the tune of 4. Sorry, that is not 4. That's supposed to be 3.5. And this we're going to extrude I think I messed that up on this side. Now there's a gap there. Okay. E this way. 3.5. E 3.5. Okay. So that is going to be our doors. We're going to do the same thing with the I key on these. So we're going to have that go to 4. We're going to have that go to 4. Okay. We're going to go inside and we're going to do the same here and make that go to 4. And make that one, is that right? Yes, that is right. And make that go to 4. Okay. And when we go to our texturing and everything else, you're gonna see why I've elected to do it this way. So the last piece of all of this is the walls, the back, the front, and the sides do not have material depth to them. So we're going to put that material depth in there and get that taken care of. Okay. So first things first, let's do the back wall. There it is. So we're going to select that wall, and we want to move that wall inward 4 inches. Okay. Then I want to take that wall, and I'm going to call that wall inner. And I'm going to explain the need to do this. I just won't go through that right now, but I will explain it. Okay, so we're going to extrude on that way, -4. Make sure that looks right. It does. Then we're going to do the right. We're going to extrude in that way, -4. Okay. Okay, that's all looking good. So we got our walls pulled in. The last one is the front wall, of course. Pick the front wall. I want this, I want this, and I want this, and I'm going to dissolve the faces and turn it all into one. Okay, that's the whole plan. So now when I select that, the whole thing selects. Okay, so E -4. Okay, there we go. All of our walls now have material to them, a material depth. What I didn't do is I didn't go around and create the inner portion, so I'm going to do that now. think I did it for the back. I did. I don't think I did it for the left. And I hope you can see why I find it important to label stuff, because I know where everything is. I know what it's called. And so I can easily find it in the tree in that list. Okay? So all of our walls are extruded. They all have material thickness and or material depths to them. We're going to do the same to the window frames, the windows, and the doors, and the door. Okay? And that's going to probably wrap this episode up. We're doing some good time. Okay, let's get to the right side. Okay, so the right side, we want to pick the frame. Window frame. And I want to extrude that. Extrude. Oops. Extrude inward 4 inches, right? And I want to extrude the glass. I want to extrude that also in, but this time I want to extrude that 2 inches, okay? Leaving an inner lip and an outer lip. Okay, now that was now let's do our left side. And we want the window frame, which is that right there. We want to extrude. Oops. Hang on now. We want to extrude X 4 inches. Glass. Want to extrude. Extrude X 4 inches. No, not 4 inches. Extrude X 2 inches. Okay. The final one is the door. So there's the door, and that's the door frame. So we want to push that door frame in. I want to push that door frame, extrude, and I want to push that in 4 inches. I think I'm getting it done, right? Yeah. Okay. Then we're going to deal with the door itself, which is the door. And that one too, we're going to extrude it in on the x-axis, but 2 inches. Okay. So that has pretty much made the model. It just hasn't got any texturing or any of those other things, which we will get into our next episode. This covers creating the hangar and the geometry and all that stuff that's necessary to create the hangar. It's Raymond for Stream Gamers in conjunction with Connect Air. I would appreciate a like, subscribe, comment, blah, blah, blah. If you have any views, ideas, thoughts, by all means, go ahead and down there somewhere. We're going to pick this project up on our next go at this, and we're going to start texturing, and we're going to start explaining how the textures work, and at least from the way I understand how they work. So I would appreciate if you would take the time to click the like button, click the bell that you'd get a notification the next time I upload a video. I don't have a definitive schedule when I do it, but I'm releasing videos fairly often, maybe monthly-ish, maybe, I don't know. But I'll probably do more if there's more need for content. If you have ideas about projects that you'd like to know how to do, by all means, put them down in the comments section there, and I will look into it and see if it's something I'm able to do. And if I am, I'll show you how I would go about doing it. All right, that is the end of this video, and we will get to the next one hopefully shortly. I intend to release all of these videos all together, so I don't intend to release one today and then make you wait for a week to get the next one. I'll have them all released, all kind of fairly close to one another, within a few hours of one another. All right, thank you again. Appreciate your time, and until the next one, bye-bye now.